Hello, welcome to another Easify video. In this video, I'm going to be talking about what's new in Easify version 4.78. Now, in this version, we've got some pretty good updates for you, pretty nice features for you in this one. And mainly that focuses around changes to the products. Namely, we've got a brand new product editor window. So if I load that up for you, the new product editor is the first thing you'll notice with it is it's resizable, whereas the original one wasn't. The original product editor or product details window was fixed in size. So now you can resize the window. You can make it full screen if you wanted to and bring it back down again. Now with this, we have made a few changes to the layouts here. Now we always try to avoid changing the user interface as far as we possibly can, because let's face it, nobody likes to load up a piece of updated software and find everything's been moved around and you have to relearn it again. So we do work quite hard to not change things unnecessarily. The biggest thing you'll notice here is that in the new product editor, the tabs are down the side, whereas they used to be across the top. That's probably the most notable change. The reason we've done that is that we're going to be adding more features to the product editor, such as the new bill of materials code, which is coming in another update. So we're going to need more space to get more tabs in, and we'd already run out of room a bit on the old window, so we've gone for vertical tabs. They're all pretty much in the same order, so they should be pretty familiar. You might have to just turn your head on one side to make it look like it used to. I jest, obviously. Okay, so some of the things we've changed. If you use the loyalty points system, there used to be a loyalty points tab which would appear if you had loyalty points enabled. The things that were on the loyalty points tab are now in the pricing tab, and all there was one box where you could assign loyalty points to a product. So this, if you use loyalty points, this has moved from the loyalty points tab, which no longer exists, onto the pricing tab. Something else we've changed, we've introduced a new shipping tab, and on the details tab there used to be shipping weight at the bottom, and we've moved that to its own tab now, which is the shipping tab. And this is where you'll now find shipping weight. I'll come back to this in a moment, but those are really the only things that we've moved around, other than changing this to a vertical tab layout rather than a horizontal tab layout. So on the details page, this is very much as it was. One thing we've changed here, though, is that on the drop-down lists, these are now searchable. So if you click on a drop-down list, you can now type in what you're looking for. So if you type in BOS, and you can press enter on the keyboard and it selects it. And if you press tab, you can tab between the different controls, and when you tab into a drop down list, it'll automatically open up, and then you can type things in. So let's see what we've got lurking down here. So we've got, say, vacuum cleaners. So let's say you wanted to select vacuum cleaners, you could just type it in VACC, oops, me backspace, I'll do backspace to clear that, VAC vacuum cleaners, press enter, and it selects it. And you can do this with all of them, or you can obviously just select things manually like you always used to, but that's quite a handy little time saver on those bits. If we go to the pricing tab, nothing really has changed here other than loyalty points if you have it enabled in tools options. On the stock levels, we now have a location button here, so you can select a location if you have any, and you can also view and edit product locations from here. Now there's a button to do that, and you can get into the product location editor. Oops, my typing is terrible. There we go, a location, and you can select that from the list if you wanted to. You can also access that from the products menu, product locations as well, if you want to do that. Okay, now I briefly mentioned the shipping tab just now. Going back to that, the reason we've introduced this is because we've added some new features here, which is commodity code, country of origin, and shipping notes. So with commodity code, this allows you to enter and select product commodity codes if you use them for import or export. And you have an editor for those, so you can click the button here to edit product commodity codes, and you can add one in. So the code could be whatever you want it to be, and then the description would be a code. And then you could select that from the list. And you can also select country of origin for your products. And you can also add in shipping notes. These new values don't actually perform any function. They don't link to anything, but what they do allow is for you to print this on your paperwork. So if we go into the paperwork designer, tools, paperwork designer, and we click on, say, invoice, and if you go into the product, expand this a little bit, you'll see that you have commodity code and you have commodity code description. So what you can do is you could, let's say, expand the details on the product in here, and you can drag a commodity code onto your paperwork, and you can drag the description of it onto your paperwork like so. And you could drag on the country of origin code. That would be the ISO code for the country. So for example, GB. And you can drag on the country of origin name, which would be United Kingdom for the default one, and so on. And also shipping notes. Shipping notes, you can drag those onto your paperwork as well. So if you do shipping notes, you could drag those on. Oops. And that would allow you to tag notes, shipping notes onto each product. So shipping notes aren't really designed for anything specific. They're just there, that's just there as a handy kind of free text field. If you want to add extra shipping information onto any of your product lines on an invoice or on a quotation, that's a way you can do it. So you can type text in on the product, and whenever that product is then sold, the information regarding commodity codes, country of origins, or shipping notes, that will automatically get printed on your paperwork if you've added these fields in. You can arrange this however you like. Okay, so back to the product editor. If you look at the condition tab, that is much the same as it ever was. Same for the notes tab, that hasn't changed. Info has changed somewhat, and we'll come back to that because that's quite a major change on the info tab. Sales history. One of the great things about being able to resize the product editor is it makes sales history much easier to use. So whereas before you were constrained to a small window and you'd have to do a search for the sales history for a product, and then you would click this button to pop out a new window so that you could get a bigger working area. You don't really need to do that now. Now you can resize the product editor. You can make this window as big or as small as you want. So that makes it much easier for using the sales history or the purchase history. All right, so back to the product info. There's been some major changes in here. So we'll spend a little bit of time talking about that. Now, this will still look fairly familiar. We've tried not to change the layout too much on this. So we tried to keep everything in pretty much the same place. Let me just close this down again and reopen it. And then I go to the info tab. You'll notice now that when you first go to the info tab, that you get a handy little pop-up tooltip that says click here to add or edit product images and HTML description. And it points to the button you need to click. So we've started adding this more and more to Easify to help guide you through some of the features. If things aren't necessarily that obvious the first time you use it, hopefully these will sort of help with what to click and what to do. So we'll click OK to that. Now you'll notice here the layout's changed a little bit. The images appear as thumbnails at the top. Now there's only one image at the moment, but we'll change that in a short while. With the images, you can click on the image and it'll open it in a viewer. And with this, you can zoom in and out to get a better look at things. I'm just dragging the zoom slider there, but you can also hold down the control key on the keyboard and use the mouse wheel. And if you rotate the mouse wheel, you can zoom in and out using that as well, which makes it nice and easy. And this will also zoom to where the mouse pointer is. So if you wanted to zoom into a part of the image, say the nose of the bunny, you put the mouse over the nose and use the wheel and it will zoom in on that part of the image. And you can select auto and the image will auto size with the window. So that's the image viewer. The image editor has changed significantly. So if we go to that, again, you can see we get a pop-up, which I've just got rid of. Let me open it again. There we go. So you get a pop-up saying you can add a new image to this product by clicking the Open Image button. And I'll click OK. You can either click off this or just click OK. I'll click off the tooltip to hide it. And as you can see, the layout of this is fairly similar to the previous version. It's we haven't totally rearranged it. We've just enhanced things as we go. So here you can still click the delete button here to delete a picture. You can click the open folder button to browse for another image. So I'll select an image and click open, and you can see it's added below. And if I hover over the thumbnails on the left, you can see that we can change the order by clicking these little blue buttons that appear. The thumbnail bar, you can hide that, and then you can bring it back again if you want a bit more space on the screen. Let me just make this a little bit bigger. The main difference you'll notice is that we have an image editor built in. So now you can load an image and you can do a certain amount of image manipulation straight here in Easify Pro without having to go off to Photoshop or GIMP or anything like that. So I won't cover all of these. If you want to know more about these, just click the Get Help button down below here. You click on that, that'll take you to our website, and we've got a comprehensive help guide on this page and all other pages. And this will describe in depth every tool that you can use and so on. So you can browse that at your leisure if you want to know more about the tools. But basically you can do things like rotate. You can rotate an image 90 degrees. And you can see it's popped up again to say when you are done editing your image, click the Apply Changes button. So it's just letting you know to click the tick when you're done editing. And you can say OK to that. And you can rotate the images and you can draw text on them. So you can add text, you can change the size of the font. Let's change the color to something else, make it bigger, and you can rotate it and you can drag it around. So you can do whatever you like with that. Cancel that. You can draw things if you want to. So you could choose a pen color, make a bigger brush, and then you can draw shapes or click the undo button. You could do things like hue shift if you want to change the colors. So there's all kinds of things you can do in here to enhance your image. Okay. Another change that we've got in here is the HTML editor. So when you go to HTML description, it takes a second or two to load up. And you can see now we've got a much more kind of word processor-like experience for the HTML editor. We've completely replaced this part of the code. And now you can edit your HTML in a much more familiar environment. I will say as well, if you are an existing Easify user who's upgrading, and if you use Easify for e-commerce, in other words, you upload products from Easify to your website, then we've got a bit of a help article on that, which if you click on Get Help and go to a help page for this, you'll see there's a note at the top that says, please read about important changes to the HTML editor here first. And if you click that, we've got an article that describes some possible changes that might affect you. Now, this will only affect you, as it says here, if both the following are true. So if you upload products to your e-commerce website from Easify, and if you've upgraded to version 4.78 or later from an earlier version. Use e-commerce, you can ignore this completely, it doesn't matter. If you do, then have a read of this page. And basically all it's telling you, this is the important bit really. All we're saying is because we've made quite a few changes to the way this works, test it first. So if you use e-commerce and you use Easify to upload images to your website, pop open a product, make a few changes to a product, click OK, save all the changes, and then just hop onto your website and make sure everything looks as it should. Nothing should have changed, but it's worth checking first. So I say read the article, that will tell you everything you need to know. Just to remind you, click on Get Help, and then on the product HTML editor help page, you can click the link at the top of the page, and then this basically tells you in a lot more depth how you may be affected by the changes we made. Okay, so the other changes we've made some changes to the VAT code. So if we go to the VAT settings, assuming you're VAT registered, if you go to VAT Returns, and let's just click on Add a VAT Return, we've changed the wording on the 9 boxes of the VAT return, and this is to be aligned with HMRC's new requirements that have come in. And this is purely a cosmetic change. Nothing has changed underneath. So the way that all your VAT values are calculated is exactly the same. You don't have to do anything differently in terms of that. All that's changed are the wording of several of the boxes. So box 2, that used to say VAT due on EC acquisitions, and now it says VAT due in the period on acquisitions of goods made in Northern Ireland from EU member states. Box 4 has changed. That used to say VAT reclaimed on purchases and other inputs. Now that says VAT reclaimed in the period on purchases and other inputs, brackets, including acquisitions in Northern Ireland from EU, those brackets. Rolls off the tongue, that one. And box 8 has changed. That used to say total value of supplies to other EC states, excluding VAT. And it now says total value of dispatches of goods and related costs, brackets, excluding VAT from Northern Ireland to EU member states. And box 9 used to say total value of acquisitions from other EC states, excluding VAT. And it now says total value of acquisitions of goods and related costs, excluding VAT, made in Northern Ireland from EU member states. So be aware of that. It's just a wording change, and it doesn't change anything that gets sent to HMRC. So if you're using Making Tax Digital, these changes are purely just on the screen, and they don't change anything that gets transmitted to HMRC. It's just it's a purely visual change, that one. The other thing we've done behind the scenes is whenever we release a new version of Easify, we always make sure we implement any new security requirements from HMRC. So if you do use HMRC Making Tax Digital and Easify Pro, then upgrade to the latest version as soon as you can, because that will make sure that you're compliant with all of HMRC's security requirements. Okay, well, that pretty much wraps up what's new in Easify version 4.78. As always, I hope you found this video useful. Please feel free to pop them in the comments below, and we'll do our best to get back to you as soon as we can. Equally, you can email any questions to support@easify.co.uk, and again, we'll be happy to hear from you. So until next time, thanks for watching.